See Destiny Productions presents Power to Win with Dr. Valerie Daniels Carter. Expect a powerful half-hour broadcast that allows you to engage from the business world to the spiritual world, to be inspired and to be informed, empowering, enlightening, mentoring, enriching. Like us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube and Instagram. Remember, you have the power to win with Dr. Valerie Daniels Carter.
Welcome to Power to Win. Last week we started with the promise of good success, and we're going to continue talking about the promise of good success tonight. Won't you take a moment and open this session of Power to Win with me in prayer? Oh Lord our God, how excellent is your name in all of the earth. From the rising of the sun until the going down of the same, your name is worthy to be praised. You are a phenomenal God. You're a great God. You're a mighty God. And you bring to us good success. And we as your children, we receive it. So allow us to walk into that place of destiny that you have for us. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Again, thank you for joining with us tonight. Please take a moment to tag someone and let them know that Power to Win is on. As a matter of fact, why don't you start a share party right now? Tag a friend, a family member, a co-worker. Make sure you invite other entrepreneurs, business executives, emerging leaders, pastors, missionaries, or ministry leaders to tune in now. Our scriptorial reference for this season is found in 1 Corinthians 2:9. But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for them who love him. Understand, God has something wonderful prepared for those who love him. The overall theme for this season of Power to Win is shifting paradigms to align with destiny. I'm going to say that one more time. Shifting paradigms to align with destiny. We've been discussing our topic, which is the promise. And I trust that you have enjoyed the previous segments of this series. If you missed one, go back to the website, ValerieDanielsCarter.com. That website again is ValerieDanielsCarter.com. And after selecting the series library tab, you can enjoy what has already been shared in relationship to this series on the promise. We've discussed the promise of wisdom and knowledge. We've discussed the promise of favor and insight. We've discussed the promise of peace beyond understanding. And then we talked about the promise of health, healing, and wellness. Then we opened up and started the dialogue on the promise of divine protection. And then we launched into what we're calling now the promise of good success. The promise of good success. Genesis, the 39th chapter, verses 2 and 3 state, the Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house with his Egyptian master. When the master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, let me tell you what happened. He then promoted Joseph. When a great leader understands that individuals that are working with them are positioned in a place where the Lord has given them success, everything connected to them will be successful. God is faithful in every promise that he gives to us. And he lets us know that he is a God of promises. He is a God that brings good success. Now, listen, we all know that good success does not happen overnight. It comes through experiences, trials, and errors. It comes through the good and the not so good. The scripture is very clear and allows us to know that no weapon that is formed against us can prosper. It doesn't say it won't be formed. It says that once it's formed, it can't go anywhere. The enemy is always going to try to get you off of your point of being successful. You have to be wise and strong enough not to allow that to happen. By growing in grace and being faithful to God, you will allow yourself and position yourself for good success. God is here to strengthen us and bless us and bring good success. So once we're spiritually strong and positioned for the success of the Lord, it prepares us for the things of the world that may come against us. I call having spiritual success and I would say earthly success the best of both worlds. Why do I say that? Because Philippians teaches us in 4:13 that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. In my opinion, when you understand that you have the strength of the Lord on your side, you can take delight, as Psalms 37:4 says. You can take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So, as we discuss this topic of good success, over the last week, we showcased a phenomenal man of God. The reason I can say he's phenomenal is because he's my big brother. And if you did not listen to part one, I encourage you to go back and listen to part one of me having dialogue with John W. Daniels Jr. on the topic of the principles of good success. I was honored to interview him because not only is John a great attorney, but he's a statesman, he's an entrepreneur, he is a businessman and a philanthropic individual. He has so many attributes that I could go on and on and on. And you know what? You can just Google him online and see just all of his accomplishments. So we started last week asking John some questions, trying to, get out of him his secrets for success, some of his keys for success. And he was so gracious to do that for us. We are now in the process of continuing that interview. Won't you join with me as I continue to have dialogue with attorney John W. Daniels Jr.
You know, when I first became chair, and they said, you're the first African American, I was like, that can't be true. It's not like I grew up thinking, oh, Mr. Jones is the chairman of this law firm, and one day I want to be like Mr. I mean, I didn't have that experience. I just want to be the best damn lawyer I can be. When I walk into a room, I want people to know I'm not coming to play. I'm coming to represent my client. My name is John W. Daniels Jr. I'm Chairman Emeritus of Quarles & Brady, a law firm that has a national presence. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1948. I did start my formal education in a legally segregated school. I can distinctly remember when I was probably 12 or 13, getting on a bus and sitting where I thought I could sit. And my uncle said, well, you can't quite sit here. That was the first time that it sort of like occurred to me that there was something different about this environment. My family moved to Milwaukee in the mid-50s, part of the Great Migration. So this is actually where I grew up. Right here is the high school that I went to. I was probably a nerd. I was a debater. There was a woman who was the first African American elected to statewide office. Her name was Val Phillips. So there was this major contest where different cities would pick out youngsters that they thought were the very best speakers. 25 years or so before me, she won it. You roll the calendar years forward, and the group says, hey, we got another Val Phillips. She's a legend. She's a lawyer. It sort of occurred to me that maybe there's some things I can do. So I graduated from Harvard in 1974. Other than the normal law school grind, I felt very comfortable there.
He was a third-year law student my first year at the Harvard Law School. He was thoughtful. He was mature. He was kind of like the older brother I never had.
My wife always knew she wanted to come back to the Midwest. My family was here, so Milwaukee won. I came straight to Quarles and Brady.
There were not many African American attorneys practicing in the private sector, and certainly few, if any, in big law. You could count them virtually on one hand.
No, it didn't bother me to be the first person. That didn't bother me a lick. What I was most interested in was, are there people in this firm who are going to treat me as a friend and a colleague?
When you thought of leading real estate lawyers in America, John, he was always at the top of the list. There were people who established a beachhead, if you will, at various firms across the country in Washington, Chicago, Milwaukee, in John's case. Over the course of time, we saw change.
What you don't know until you are really chair is how you communicate your vision and your chemistry in a way that resonates with the people who you want to be part of the team. I just fundamentally believe that organizations that inspire that kind of trust are just, they're more vibrant.
He oversaw the firm during the Great Recession, which was a scary time for everybody. We grew significantly in Chicago. He helped us start our DC office. That's sort of John's hallmark, is to be able to see opportunities where others would not see it.
Hey, Squeaky. How are you? Good, how are you? Squeaky, I helped create something called MK Fellows, which is designed to have African American men. We identify them in high school, follow them through college, follow them into their professional careers. I'm not shy about the notion that I believe in equity. I think it is essential to improving the way lawyers operate.
I don't think you can overestimate what it means to people to see leaders that look like them. I think that has a huge impact on particularly younger lawyers, the staff.
If you were to measure law firms that hired African American lateral partners into the firm, John would be at the top of that list. His has been a life of service, and his has been a life that can be measured by the Jackie Robinson standard of the impact it has had on other lives.
So who were some of your role models, and why were they your role models?
So I would say I had lots of role models. My oldest brother, Dr. Roosevelt Daniels, was a role model for me because, I mean, he was like this brilliant guy who, as Val was mentioning earlier, even when I was younger, I was 4 or 5 years younger, he would teach me, advanced math when I was, in the seventh grade. And the thing about him is that he always cared about other people. You could watch him; he always cared about other people. The what I couldn't follow in his footsteps on was he was a great dresser. I mean, he was an impeccable dresser. Outside of my family, and all my members of my family are inspirations to me. Uh, the I think that Jackie Robinson was probably the person that is more nationally known. That was an inspiration for me. When I was a young student in Wisconsin, every year the Milwaukee Public Schools picked four youngsters to highlight that they thought would go on to be extremely successful. And I happened to be one of the young men who was picked, and the speaker for the banquet was Jackie Robinson. And Jackie Robinson, I'll never forget, shook my hand and said, "Young man, I think you have a great future." Now, maybe Jackie Robinson said that to a whole lot of people, but I can tell you, I've remembered that story for the rest of my life.
Wow, that's great. We're giving everybody kind of a peek under the tent with our family on tonight. And John just mentioned our oldest brother, who has been promoted to heaven, but was just a phenomenal man of God. So, where did we get that from? We got it because our parents loved us and they cared and they took time to ensure that whatever they could do to bring the best to us, even though we did not grow up rich, we did not grow up with a gold spoon in our mouth. We grew up in a family that loved one another and was concerned about making sure that we had the tools to be successful. In life, if you want to have good success, not only must you have the right tools, but you must be associated with the right individuals that can motivate you to want to do better. John, what life-changing lessons did you pick up from individuals that helped you as you began to maneuver through your career?
Yeah, one of the lessons that I had to learn was that you don't always have to be the smartest person in the room, even if you are the smartest person in the room, because nobody really wants to feel demeaned in the process. And so, one of the things that is a real virtue is the ability to listen to people and to really understand what it is that really is of concern to me. It became a great value to me when I ran our law firm, because law firms are full of people who have big egos, to be honest with you. And I had hundreds of big egos. I loved them all, but hundreds of big egos that I had to work with. And when I became chairman of the firm, I would go out and talk to the clients. And I would start by going to the lawyer in our firm and saying, "This is a client you've worked with for a bunch of years. Tell me all about it." Then I do a lot of research, and then I would go out and I would talk to the client. And one of the things that really was terrific value was that if you sit down and listen to what is important to people, they'll tell you. Now, they may not say it directly, but if you're a careful listener, it makes an enormous difference. So I encourage people always to listen because you really want to understand, what it is that motivates people. Because what motivates people is what causes them to work with you in a certain way.
Well, and I can tell you that's true. Um, you know, I listen to my big brother. Now, I may not do everything he tells me to do the way he tells me to do it, but generally he's right. And I've learned so much from him. And you just cannot be the know it all. You have to understand that teamwork really does make the dream work. And when you work together and you sit down and strategize and look for ways to work things through, even when you're going through some of your toughest situations, you'll be amazed at what kind of results you can have. So with that in mind, John, what advice do you wish someone had given to you when you were in the infancy or the early part of your career?
Yeah, I think as you may have seen earlier, I mean, I was sort of in the first wave of African Americans who went into big law, and big law really didn't have any it didn't have any history for having people like that. So you really didn't have something that you could say, oh, I want to sort of tailor my performance around X. So one of the things that I learned is that if you listen to people and you listen to advice, take that advice that fits with you authentically. And if it doesn't fit with you authentically, then let it go. So the very first month I was at the law firm, which I've been at for decades now, a senior partner called me into his office, and he said, I've read about you. I think you have a great career. And he said, I just want to share something with you. He said, first of all, I want to share with you a book. And the book was Dress for Success. The book was to tell you how to dress, in those days, so that people would perceive you as a lawyer. And the second thing he said, I don't want you to take offense at this. He said, but you need to remove that facial hair. And it was really a little, I didn't have a beard, it was like a mustache. And I was like laughing because I was like, is this guy serious? So I listened to him, went home, read the book Dress for Success. And then I told my wife what he said about the mustache. And I said, I'm not doing it, because it wasn't authentically me. Uh, and so I went back and I told him, I said, thank you for the advice on the that you've given me. And I didn't even bring up what I was going to do, but it was clear to him that I wasn't going to do the thing with the mustache. And I worked with this guy for many, many years. Uh, uh, and the thing about it is that he respected the fact that I was authentic and I didn't have to jump up in his face, but he knew where I was coming from.
Wow. When I think about you, John, as a leader, and I see you working with all of these young African American males now within your fellows program and giving them great instructions as to how to be successful in life. It really does something to me to just watch the hundreds of young men that have gone through your program. How do we convince our young people that there really is a standard for success? And in order to achieve it, there's certain principles that you have to manage by. How do you convince those young people of that?
Yeah, well, that's a very important thing. And I think, it's great if your family instills those values in you from when you're growing up. I mean, you got to be honest. I mean, it's just, that's just not, something you ever compromise on. But if you don't have the benefit of, someone instilling that to you early, you've got to sort of surround yourself in an environment where those values are provided to you and you see the benefit of it. The other thing is that you got to be resilient because everybody that I've ever met uh, faces something that's a challenge. And when you face that challenge, it's not an easy thing, but you got to get through it and move on. And I think finally, I would say that if you look at the world of possibilities now, there's so many things that people can do now that you know even 20 years ago people never thought about. And so dream, especially when you're young, dream because that's the time when you have the opportunity, to spread your wings. I mean, if someone had told me when I was 12 years old that I would end up being the first African American in the country to run a national law firm, I never would have even thought of it. It wouldn't even cross my mind. I mean, when I was in high school, I used to go down to the courthouse and sit and watch lawyers. Uh, and I thought, wow, this is a great profession, you know. But I never thought of it that maybe I would one day do it. I think the other thing is just be open to people because you don't ever know who's going to see something in you that you don't see in yourself. Uh, and just be open to a whole lot of different people because it does make a difference in terms of having people who support you and who believe in you.
Well, that's great because I really want to reach out to young people, and you said a keyword, dream, because sometimes I don't think we challenge them enough to dream, and they get stuck in their circumstance, and that's all they see, that's all they know. And for you and I, we both know we did have this family or familial support. Every young person may have a support, but it may not be at the same level. But if they have determination and if they're resilient, there is nothing that they can't achieve if they want to have good success and be successful. So, in my opinion, is good success something that, or I shouldn't say in my opinion, my question to you is good success something that can be dictated by others to you, or is it something that you have to do for yourself?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think the answer to that question is that it's a combination. It's a combination of your having the commitment for yourself and recognizing that you can't always do it always by yourself. So if
Mhm.
you keep in mind, I've got to do my part because if I don't do my part, others can't, perpetually prop me up. But if I do my part and others see the benefit of sort of engaging and investing in me, that to me is sort of the real formula for success.
Well, our time is up now, but and I hate to cut off because I mean you're just a phenomenal guest to have on the show because you have so much knowledge, so much insight, so much wisdom internalized inside of you. And the second reason is because uh, I just want the audience to know the first time I got a bill from John's law office, I called him up and I said, "There's a problem." He said, "What's the problem?" I said, "There's too many zeros behind the number." I said, "I can't afford to pay this." He said, "Oh, that's nothing. Just pay it and be done with it." Well, I got to get him off this line, gang, because I don't want to get those zeros again. He has and is the prescription, in my opinion, of good success. The formula that he's used in life is to be fair, to have integrity, to love God, to be able to be an example for others. He's watched those that have been successful. He's celebrated them, and God has blessed him with what he has today. He's taken risk, and he's not always been, in a position where everything worked out fine. But even in the midst of his transition or his storms, he stood there. He didn't allow the giant to destroy him. He was a David that said, "Bring on Goliath." Because when you're the first African American chair of a major law firm in the country, you have to kind of set the tone for those that are following you. So he took on that responsibility so others would be able to have good success. My time is out. John, thank you so much for joining with us on tonight. And if I could just take a moment and close in prayer, I'd ask that my audience would let me know that they understand that they too have the power to win. Won't you join in prayer with me? Oh Lord, our God, how excellent is your name in all of the earth, from the rising of the sun until the going down of the same. Your name is worthy to be praised. And success doesn't come from the north, the south, the east, or the west, God, but it comes from you. And I pray for everyone that's listening to this broadcast on tonight that you would allow good success to overshadow them, bless their homes, bless their families, bless their place of employment, bless their businesses. You're able to do exceedingly above that which we can even ask for. So I pray and I thank you for John being a part of this broadcast tonight, sharing with us some of the nuggets that we need in order to execute on our assignment and bring and allow good success to be our fortune. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Thank you again for joining with me. Thank you, Attorney Daniels, for being a part of Power to Win. Take a moment, please, ladies and gentlemen, and reach out, and my Instagram visitors and watchers, reach out and tell somebody else that Power to Win is on every Tuesday night. You can go and like us on Facebook, Instagram. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can visit my website at ValerieDanielsCarter.com. And until next Tuesday, God bless you. And remember, you have the power to win.
See Destiny Productions presents Power to Win with Dr. Valerie Daniels Carter. Expect a powerful half-hour broadcast that allows you to engage from the business world to the spiritual world, to be inspired and to be informed, empowering, enlightening, mentoring, enriching. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube and Instagram. Remember, you have the power to win with Dr. Valerie Daniels Carter.